Welcome to ProjectME, the podcast. I'm your host, Tiffany Carter, the founder of ProjectME, multimillionaire entrepreneur, former TV newscaster, money-making expert, female empowerment speaker, and self-proclaimed office supply addict. My mission is to take the mystery out of making big money. Every week on ProjectME, the podcast, I'll share success tips, strategies, and stories from other entrepreneurs, experts, and millionaires, showing you exactly how you can achieve your most exceptional life. Now let's get to it. Exciting announcement for all of my listeners. I've officially opened my exclusive group, the ProjectME Passive Income Posse, to the public. This group is by application only, so we can keep the group high vibe and spend our time, energy, and expertise only helping those of you who truly want massive success and impact. You get live weekly trainings from me, special guest coaches, and direct access to me and my business partner for all of your questions. To learn more and apply, go to projectmewithtiffany.com, click on Work With Me, and select ProjectME Posse. And of course, any questions, feel free to DM me at ProjectMeWithTiffany. Welcome to the podcast and posse, ProjectME with Tiffany Carter. I'm your host, Tiffany, and today your host is Burnt Toast. No joke. I think it's so interesting that the title of today's episode is Learn How to Remove and Manage the Fear of Being Judged. And my episodes, a little behind the scenes here, I normally title them 2 weeks in advance. If I'm traveling, which of course none of us are doing right now, it can be 4 weeks, it can be 6 weeks. But right now I'm wanting to title them not too far in advance because everything's changing so quickly here, and I want to make sure I'm delivering to you guys exactly what you need to feel the most heard, supported, understood, uplifted, motivated, inspired, and all the things. But this was probably titled, about like a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. Since April 15th, I have been truly struggling with depression. Now, those of you guys who are loyal listeners, shout out to you guys, love you, know that I am medicated for depression. And I have been since it's been so long, I think it's been around 23 years old. So I've also tried to not be medicated, and that didn't go well for me. And that's a whole nother episode. And I did it properly. I titrated down all of my medical professionals who listened to the show. It was done supervised and all those things. I've also done it before unsupervised. Absolutely do not do that. There's warnings all over the label not to do that. You can get really sick. But I need this, and I've an acceptance of it. I don't feel less than for it. I know there's a lot of people that say you don't need that stuff and go down a whole path. Well, I don't really give a fuck. I do, and that's okay. I manage my depression. Obviously, we know, like with depression, anxiety, any sort of mental health stuff, a pill isn't going to cut it, right? It's certainly far from enough with a lot of different things, right? A lot of cognitive disorders and things like that. So all of the different beautiful tools I've learned over the years in recovery, in therapy, in doing manifestation, law of attraction work, yoga, art therapy, all of it. I use all those tools and I manage it really well. But even though I do all those things and manage it well, that doesn't mean it's not going to rear its ugly head. And I want to say that because I know that so many of you who are listening, whether you're officially diagnosed with anxiety, depression, or some other mood disorder or not, I know many of you struggle with this. Everyone has a natural tendency to go lean to depression in times of crisis, strife, overwhelm, stress, death, big things that happen, or they lean to anxiety, or it can be vacillating between the two, which is what happens with me. And that feels like purgatory. I call it wired tired. I mean, can I get a virtual raise of hands? I can see all you guys raising your hands while like doing insane multitasking right now. Raise your hand if you know what I mean, where it's like your brain is like a crazy squirrel who had like 80 cups of coffee, but your body's like a sloth and you're tired, fatigued, lazy, can't move, don't want to move. And your brain's like, that's horrible, but that's what happens with me. And since the 15th, I think what it was is that on the 15th, I knew because with California, I mean, again, things can change every day. So by the time you listen to this, it could be different. But they're not lifting that stay-at-home quarantine thing until May 15th. First of all, it's not necessarily lifted. That's when they're reevaluating. So I knew on April 15th, there is still another fucking month of this. And there was something about that shift that it just didn't feel good in my body. It was like I was doing really good, feeling like, okay, I can do this. But knowing there was another month, it was like, oh my God, this is just too much. Right. And so that depression really came up, and I've been doing every tool I know to do, which I know hundreds of them, which I teach so many to you guys, and they're not really working. So it's just funny that this was the episode title today, because I didn't want to come on and record this for you guys because I was judging myself. So here's the thing. When we have a fear of being judged, it's because we're judging ourselves. If you are not judging yourself, I'm telling you right now, the fear of being judged is lifted. Or maybe it's only there like, 5% or 10%. There's a hint of it there. And so there is an acronym. You guys know I love acronyms almost as much as I love analogies. There's an acronym used in the recovery world called HALT, H-A-L-T. And it stands for hungry, angry, lonely, tired. I add an S to it, so it's HALTs with an S, and the S stands for stressed. When we are in that zone, this is when our unhealthy coping mechanisms come out full force. This is when our less flattering personality traits come out. And for me, when I can manage really well the hungry part and the stress part, but the angry, lonely, tired part, that's when my self-judgment and self-criticism, that inner bully, really come out. And that's what I've been dealing with for the past several days. And so how funny that this is the title. I was like, I don't want to come on because I don't feel super high vibe, and I've done everything to raise my vibe, but it's only raised about 10%. And I know all of my people really need, they really need to feel energized and help with feeling uplifted and motivated right now. And I'm worried that I'm not going to be able to give it to them and that I'll be a downer. And that's not what I want to do for them. And they're not going to like this episode. And I went down a whole path. But I have a commitment to myself, to my business, and to all of you that there's an episode that is released every Monday and Wednesday. So I'm at the 11th hour of when I have to record this in order for my producer to edit. And we only edit for sound quality, but still, he has his own deadline that he needs my stuff by. So I wasn't going to go back on a commitment to all of you and to my business and to myself and to my producer. So I had to do it. But I wanted you guys to hear what was going on in my head, because that inner critic is pretty loud right now. I'm not thinking a ton of positive thoughts. I have to really work for it, right? What I mean by that is the negative ones keep flooding in, and then I'm doing my work of reframing it. But then when I'm tired and I'm in this down space, it gets exhausting to constantly reframe these negative thoughts, to focus and look for the positive. And then that can become insanity in of itself. How many of you know what I'm talking about? I bet a lot of you. Take a screenshot right now of this episode, you guys, and I want you to share it after you listen on your social media and tag me at ProjectME with Tiffany. I really feel this is an episode that your audience, whether you have 200 people in it or 2 million, need to hear, because we all suffer from that fear of being judged. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you are an absolutely stunningly gorgeous, mega millionaire celebrity. I don't care if you're someone who is an out of work single mom. I don't care if you're someone who on the outside, you're Polly the influencer and life looks all amazing and perfect filters. We all have this fear of being judged. And especially I feel right now in times of stress, this comes up more because, again, we're in that hungry, angry, lonely, tired, stressed zone. And we are not being so kind to ourselves. And therefore, we assume that others are going to judge us too. Why wouldn't they if we're judging ourselves? Now, here's the other thing. If you are surrounded, quarantined, or, talk on the phone or in video chat or work with a lot of people who are highly critical people, like they make fun of people on TV, they're highly critical of others, themselves, very judgy, caught up in all the news of all of this. If you're surrounded by people who do a lot of that, it will in turn start infecting your brain, and you will start doing it more. So if you find yourself also judging others when scrolling, when watching TV, when listening to podcasts, if you're doing that to others, well, no wonder you're worried that people are going to judge you because you're doing it yourself. It's kind of like, like the people who always think, those people you've been in a relationship with who always think you're cheating. And you're like, I've not done anything to make you think I'm cheating, but they always think you're cheating. It's because they're fucking cheating themselves, because they're a fucking cheater. And I'm not saying someone who thinks it once in a while, and just has like a jealousy, insecurity spurt. I'm talking, you know what I mean? The person who's like always thinking you're cheating or lying or doing something. Let me tell you, in my years of experience of dating the United Nations and then some, it's because they're cheating or they are thinking of cheating themselves. So it's no different when it comes to judging. So here's how it usually looks in our brain, right? I am too blank to be successful as a blank, right? Or I am too blank. Like, let's use my thing as an example today. I'm too much of a downer today for this to be a successful, podcast episode. Well, what the fuck is that? How do I know? We're starting to become predictors of the future of things we have no control. So 2 things. 1, we have no fucking idea. Usually the episodes that I come on where I'm like, oh God, I don't know if that was any good, they end up being my most popular episodes. So I have no idea. We got to stop predicting the future. We have no idea how something's going to be received. Our job is just to show up as ourselves and do the damn thing anyway. Number 2 is, it is none of our fucking business what other people think of us. It's really not. All human beings judge. All of us do. I mean, and some of us judge more, right? Some of us judge more than others. For me, if I am surrounded by a lot of people who are judging and critiquing, it can end up being contagious. And I notice I start doing it too. And then I start doing it to myself. So you need to be mindful of whose energy and words and behaviors you're absorbing. You're not necessarily going to be able to change them, but you can certainly set some boundaries. And you can say like, hey, I would appreciate if let's not be so critical of other people. It makes me end up being critical of myself. Now, usually highly critical people will then turn on you and start criticizing you. So if it's not someone who's worth doing that with, when you hear them doing that, I want you just to say to yourself, like, that's their behavior. That's their choice to do that. That's not mine. That's really a safer way to go if you don't think that critical person can hear you anyway. But a lot of you really need to say this to yourselves. You're the one who's being the critical and judgy one about yourself. So no wonder you think other people are going to do it. So before I even started Project Me with Tiffany Carter, you guys, I was not going to start this brand, even though it's something I had dreamed of and wanted for 10 years. I went down a whole path of telling myself, you know, I'm the heaviest I've ever been, so I don't really want to show up and in an online space where everyone I'm perceiving to be like Bali butterflies bouncing around in a skimpy white bikini with a perfect tan and abs and long flowy blonde hair. I was terrified of being judged and not being accepted. It's like, who the hell wants to like watch someone who's not perfectly like, you know, groomed with the perfect makeup all the time? I went down a whole path in that. Well, I'm making up a lot of stories here and assumptions, right? It did not matter that I had already multiple 7 figures in the bank, that I already had 10 years of proven entrepreneurial experience, that I'd already coached the hundreds and hundreds of people one-on-one and thousands in group settings. I already knew what I was doing. I had the credentials. I had the, you know, training as a TV newscaster. It's like none of that mattered whatsoever. I just want to say this to you guys so you hear it, because I still came up with other stuff. You know, I'm too introverted. This is an industry for extroverted people. I'm too sensitive, I'm too sensitive or insecure to handle the haters. I mean, I'm too unknown to gain any traction on podcasts. Like, no one knows who I am. There's so many podcasters out there. This is all the stuff that came up in my head. It didn't matter of this whole list of incredible credentials, knowledge, intellectual property, training, degrees. None of that mattered because I was going down some other path. So a lot of you will cling on to things like, I don't have the credential, or I don't know what I'm doing. So you cling on to that one. Well, let me tell you, even if you had all of that, you would then go find something else. It'd be about your body, your voice, something about your personality. You would pick up something else. The issue isn't that you're lacking training and you're lacking knowledge and you're lacking confidence. That's really not the issue. The issue is coming from these self-judgments and these statements we make up and that we attach that there is truth to these things. I obviously was wrong about all of it. I was a breath of fresh air into this whole coaching world that was filled with, you know, bobbleheads and, you know, people who had, you know, sunshine coming out of their ass. I was a breath of fresh air of someone who's just being real and straight and who has an edge. And I was willing to show up, not always in full glam and makeup. And I was willing to show up even if my skin didn't look great and my hair didn't look great, and willing to show up anyway. The very things I was judging myself for and was holding myself back from starting Project Me with Tiffany Carter are the very fucking things that have made me so successful so quickly. I really want you to absorb that. The very things that we often are judging ourselves for end up being the things that people love us for the most. People love knowing that I'm an introvert, I'm an empath, I'm an intuitive, I'm a hermit crab. People love knowing that because when they know that, they're also people who are similar personality. And it's like, well, if Tiffany can be successful in this space and in business and in entrepreneurship and having a similar personality to me, that gives me hope, right? If Tiffany can get speaking gigs and press appearances and, you know, have a popular podcast, and she's not like, you know, perfectly, you know, skinny and always has her like look together. Well, God, I mean, I guess there's room for me too. Do you see what I'm saying? So I hope that this helped give you guys a different perspective. You're going to pick up that fear of being judged because it's also so familiar to you. But I promise you, you start working on not judging yourself and being critical of yourself and others as much, that fear of being judged and criticized will dramatically drop. So one last thing, when you guys start noticing you're judging or criticizing people in your head or out loud on TV, when you're scrolling, when you're watching a live, whatever, I just try to catch yourself. And I don't want it to be some like whole laborious process, but try to catch yourself and go, okay, you know, I'm judging there. We don't need to do that. Just something really simple. Like, okay, I'm judging. Like one of my dear friends and mentors said to me, anytime she catches herself judging, she kind of does a little song in her head, like judging. I'll also do like Judge Judy time, like kind of to make it so I don't want to start criticizing myself for judging, right? Because that defeats the purpose. So I don't want you to criticize yourself or shame yourself for judging. We all do it. So I kind of pick something fun like, oh, Judge Judy time or Judge Judy's out. And it helps me just, stop for that moment and recognize that I'm doing it. But the less I'm in judgment of myself and others, the more I show up with that zero fucks given. That's a really important new shift I need you guys to make mentally. And it's something you can do. And plus you'll feel better because it really doesn't feel good to be in a space of judgment and critique, even 20% of the time. It doesn't feel good. It will never go away. It is a human trait to do that. It won't go away, but we need to lessen that so that you can show up and not let that get in your way. But all these other excuses you pick up along the way, like, I don't know what I'm doing. I sound horrible. My voice is bad. My hair, I'm fat. I should have another degree, whatever it is. That's all bullshit. Even if you had all of those things, you would pick up something else because I had all the things on paper that all of you guys are saying that you need. I had them all. And that didn't matter. Remember, I had the idea for 10 fucking years. So I want to make sure I teach you this. And also, if you want to be held accountable and have these types of lessons infused to you in a way where it's a two-way communication every single week, you should really consider joining us over on the ProjectME Posse. It is my group coaching membership program where every single week I do a live training, and it goes from strategy to growing social media to making money online to money mindset, to abundance training. We talk about all the things. Plus, it's something great that also keeps you accountable. You get to communicate and collaborate with the other posse members. And it is, essentially the lowest price point to be able to work with me. It is true group coaching live from me and other high-end special guests every single week. And it's $100 a month. Like, that's insane. And you can cancel it at any time. You'd be crazy to, but you can. And you don't have to do anything special to cancel it. You can go in and cancel it on your own. I hate when companies make you jump through hoops to cancel something. So really, really consider it. Go check out the page, hear from other posse members. It's at projectmewithtiffany.com/ProjectMe Posse. projectmewithtiffany.com/ProjectMe Posse. And we are going to be closing this group when it hits a certain number of members. So you want to get in and you want to have that live training for me and that collaboration. Especially at this price point, you're going to want to get in as soon as possible, because once we reach a certain number, I'm going to close it because I want to keep this group very intimate. I don't do well in membership or group coaching programs where there's hundreds and hundreds or thousands of people. I don't feel it's as effective. I'm not saying that there's not value, but it just doesn't excite me. So this is an intimate experience, a true group coaching experience in a live format. And I so hope to see you there. It is projectmewithtiffany.com/ProjectMePosse. You guys take a screenshot, tag me at Project Me with Tiffany, share this episode for other people who you know who are likely in the halt zone right now. Wishing you great health, wealth, and worth as always. Love you guys. If you enjoyed this podcast, please write a 5-star review on iTunes. Not only will this make me super happy, but it will allow more listeners to find our special show. Simply help me help others.